Can I go? Wait, what? Now I'm like getting in running position. Going now. All right. So welcome everybody. It's 11 a.m. It's early. Who's hungover? I swore I wasn't drinking last night and it didn't work out. So, yeah, I promised you guys a little bit of blood if you saw on Twitter. So there's blood. There's a lot of pictures in this too, so you might want to move forward if you want to see them. They're pretty cool. But anyway, so my name is Kendra Cooley. Name of my talk is We Don't Always Go Lights and Sirens. So, yeah, we're going to get started. No, we're not. Oh. You got to turn it on. Damn it. Technology is really hard. All right. So again, I'm Kendra Cooley on Twitter, forensics, like forensics, Kendra. The technical stuff about me, my degree is in digital forensics. I have my CISSP, which is coming up for renewal, and that really sucks because I have not done my CPEs. I'm an analyst at Duo Security. Been there for about 8 months. I do our incident response, and I'm also on our security awareness team. To help humanize me, in my free time, I love hanging out with my family. I have 3 fur babies. They literally take over my life. I love memorizing movie lines. I've got so many in my head, it's ridiculous. Searching for new music. I love do-it-yourself projects. Pinterest has been the death of me. And then also taking naps. All right, so what are we talking about today? I know that the name of the talk is We Don't Always Go Lights and Sirens, and the reason for that is because I want to try to make incident response more tangible. How many of you in here are blue teamers? Awesome. Yes. How many of you guys actually have incident response experience? Cool. How many of you are looking to get into like blue teaming, incident response type stuff? Awesome. So this talk, we're going to talk about very high level overview of incident response, because one thing I hate more than anything during talks that I've sat through is that they're like super in depth and they don't, take into consideration the folks that are in the room that might not have the experience. So we're going to primarily focus on the triage phase of incident response today. And again, this is just kind of a new perspective on incident response. There will be blood, corny jokes, because I personally think I'm the funniest thing in the world. What's that? Yes, that's my first joke. Yep. All right. So these are the phases of incident response as we follow them at Duo. It's relatively standard throughout the industry. So we have detection, reporting, triage, analysis, containment, mitigation, and then follow-up. What the hell does that mean, right? So first things first, detection. Something happened. We've realize that something has gone wrong, whether it be a tool, whether it be a person that's reporting it, or that's spotted it. Next step after that is you got to tell somebody. In order for incident response to start, you have to know about it, right? You can't really do anything about something that you don't report. Next, we have to set the pace with triage. Triage is so important because it helps us to know what to do next. How fast do we need to respond? The analysis part is what happened. And then containment, we want to stop the thing that happened. And then we're going to fix the problem and hopefully learn from it. Now, interestingly enough, first responders follow this exact same pattern. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So, the goals are exactly the same, whether it's security or whether it's EMS, fire, police officers. We all follow the same triage or the same incident response process. We want to identify the problem, first off. Then we want to prevent future further damage. And then we also want to fix what's broken. Those are the 3 main goals of incident response, regardless of what you're working on. And for those of us who are analysts that or do incident response, we are first responders also. We are the ones not necessarily running towards a fire or running towards an emergency when something bad happens, but we're still sitting on the front lines and we're responding to the bad thing that happened. Because the last thing that we want is for our company to suffer a breach, right? No 2 incidents are the same. Does that surprise anybody? No two incidents are the same. We all know that, right? But we kind of treat them the same. We see a phishing incident, pretty much triage it the exact same. It's probably like your lower level analysts that are handling that. So what about our first responders? When they get a call for, let's say, a car accident, do you think that they always respond the same way? They absolutely do not. And we're going to go over some different examples of that. So again, with incident response, the one thing that I want you guys to take from this is that we have to stop relying on the category. It's not about the fact that it's a phish or malware. Yes, that helps with the initial triage process, but we need to get a little bit further in depth during that initial triage phase in order to understand how quickly we need to actually respond. Now, triage is critical because it needs to focus more on severity. It's very, very important that we understand what the impact is functionally and also to our data. If business systems are down, if people are not able to work, obviously that's going to be a very, very high priority incident. If data has been leaked, customer data has been leaked, if proprietary information has been leaked, that's a huge impact to a company. The other part that's really critical about triage is assigning resources. I can't even tell you how many times I have personally seen incident response done so poorly, because how many of you guys have ever watched like a Pee-wee soccer game? Anybody? All the kids are chasing the ball like a swarm of bees. That's kind of what incident response ends up being like if we don't have structure and we don't have organization. It's like that new shiny thing that everybody wants to get their hands on. There's a potential problem, so everyone's going to rush to the scene and everyone's going to try and help. But what ends up happening is we miss steps, lack of communication, so there's a lot of downfall and risk to an organization that doesn't have structure to their IR process. All right, so category really only tells us so much. When an incident is reported, let's say somebody submits a phish, they say, hey, this looks fishy. Cool. Yes, I agree. This does look fishy. But I need a little bit more information. And detection and reporting is really, really, really important when it comes to being able to properly triage an incident. And again, like I said, we're trying to avoid that too many hands in the pot scenario and then gain structure and organization to our IR process. All right. So triage sets the pace. This is the point in time where we are making that initial assessment about whether or not this is a high, medium, or low priority incident. Does everybody know the difference between those? Okay, so we're going to talk about it. All right, and it all starts with detection. And there's multiple ways that incidents are detected. We have tools. So like if you work from a SIM or something like that, that could alert you or detect something. Our IDS, we have so many tools in the world that we can use for our blue teaming exercises. And of course this gets cut off, but EMS is exactly the same. There are tools. We're not just relying on people to detect emergencies. Life Alert, for instance, that little thing that, maybe some of our parents might have. So, in the event that they stop moving for a period of time or their heart rate drops or something like that, it's going to automatically alert the police so that they can respond to help. And I love this Grumpy Cat because it says, I don't know where I'd be without my Life Alert. And he says, on the floor. Grumpy Cat's the best. It's so great. All right, so then reporting. How do incidents get reported? A lot of times we are relying on the people in our organizations to report these things if our tooling is not set up properly, or if tools miss things, because we all know that new threats are coming into our environment every single day that tools might not necessarily be able to catch. 911, what is your emergency? This is the reporting phase. When somebody picks up the phone and actually calls 911 and says, hey, something bad has happened, one thing is absolutely always certain. Someone needs help, right? Whether it be, their hair's stuck in the dishwasher, or they have a hangnail. People do call for these things. It's weird. It could be a shooting. It could be, a number of things. And the exact same thing happens for incident responders. People call on us for help. We are the first responders when it comes to phishing campaigns and malware detections and things like that. And it's our responsibility to protect the company and our employees. All right, so who knows what color comes when blue and red get mixed? Purple, right? So you're going to notice throughout the presentation, too, that InfoSec stuff is primarily blue. EMS is going to be in red just to kind of help differentiate things. So while these two fields are extremely different when it comes to detection and reporting, they both, like I mentioned, rely on tools and people. But what's the problem with tools and people? They're not perfect. They're just not. There's a lot of mistakes that happen. There's things that get missed. There's things that get overlooked. So it's not perfect. And we rely on accurate information as well. Accurate information is so important. That initial detection and reporting, the information that comes from that is literally what our triage process is built upon. If we don't have accurate information, it's impossible to make that initial assessment to tell us whether it's high, medium, or low. All right, and the most critical phase of all, triage. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into this. All right, so consider the following, like Bill Nye the Science Guy. Everybody familiar with him? All right, so when it comes to information security, we're not necessarily dealing with people's lives, but we are dealing with their livelihood. Because in the event of a breach at a company, we're out of jobs, right? Oftentimes we lose our jobs, and that's not acceptable because I don't know about you guys, but I really love money. I like food. So I rely on my job in order to have all those things. It's my livelihood. Now, EMS, of course, they are working with people's hands. One wrong move or not properly triaging an incident when every second counts could be the difference between life or death for somebody. Now, again, we're not dealing with something quite that extreme, but it is still, it's a very heavy, heavy feeling that we have to carry with us. Now, the one thing that they have in common is false alarms, right? There are false positives that we deal with on a daily basis, and there's always, always going to be fear or panic in the event of an incident. It's just the way it goes. But how do we assess the impact of an incident? Now, I have both the EMS and InfoSec up here. Now, for functional impact for InfoSec, we are interested in knowing what functions are disrupted. And like I said earlier, if business critical functions have stopped, this makes it high priority. For information, if data has been compromised, if we've lost data, that is bad news. Now for EMS, it's also very similar. They want to know what the situation is, as many details as possible about that situation, because if somebody calls 911 and say, hey, I've been in a fender bender, that's going to be a little bit different than my car is flipped over in a river, I'm bleeding profusely, and it's on fire. Like, add all the bad. Just, you know, that helps with the severity of it. Is it life-threatening? Is the person in danger? This is what helps us decide whether or not we are going to go respond with lights and sirens. Now, not every single call that EMS workers respond to require full lights and sirens. Granted, it's super fun to drive 100 miles an hour with lights and sirens blaring, but it's not always necessary. And the exact same thing can be said for incident response. Weird, I know, but it absolutely is true. We do not need to attack everything, all hands on deck, all the time. And that's one big disconnect that I often see. And I love this minion thing is the cutest thing ever. It's so cute. Oh, adorable. All right. So let the fun begin. We are going to take a look at one category of incident for EMS, car accidents. And I do have real pictures in these slides. No, like, body parts or people or anything. But there are some really messed up cars, so that'll be fun. And there is blood, I promise. I know, everybody loves blood, right? There's gonna be blood, I promise. All right, so this is the inside of an ambulance. It's all calm, peaceful. Everything's happy. Everything's good in the world here. So first scenario, 911, what's your emergency? Caller says, hey, I just witnessed a car accident. There's one passenger, he's male, he's 26 years of age. He's out of the vehicle, he's fully coherent, but his wrist is jacked. All right, cool, thanks. So that was, we just went through, he detected it, saw the accident, and then he reported it to 911. Awesome. What do you guys think this would triage out as, just given this information? High, medium, or low? You think medium? Exactly. Yep, so going back to assessing that impact, his life's not in jeopardy. His wrist is broken, but, I mean, you can still do stuff without that, right? So this would be a car accident that would fit kind of a low priority situation. Additional resources are probably not going to be needed at this point. The EMS workers can pretty much just respond, assess the person, make sure that there's nothing super life-threatening going on, and then move on. More than likely, this person that was involved in this accident is going to say, I'll take myself to the hospital and avoid that $1,000 bill. Thank you very much. I will sign this release, and it'll be done. The urgency is super low. It's not life-threatening. And guess what? In the event that something bigger happened that they were dispatched to, they'd be out of the scene in a second. Scenario number 2, again, a car accident. So same category of incident, but this time the witness, or the person that witnessed the car accident says, it's a male, 26 years of age. He's out of the vehicle, but he's complaining of dizziness. And he also has a huge gash on the side of his head. He's bleeding everywhere. What do we think about this one? A little higher, right? Medium. Now, the big thing with this one is that the patient's status could change rapidly. A head injury is no joke. So the EMS workers still want to arrive on scene relatively quickly. But again, it's one of those things where it's like lights and sirens kind of right on the line there. Urgency is definitely increased, and additional resources might be needed. They might get on scene, and the person could literally go into an arrest, which means they're basically dead, by the way. Scenario 3. Caller witnesses a car accident again, says, I have one passenger. He's in his mid-20s. Can't really get a confirmation on his age because guess what? He is unconscious, not responsive. This is critical. High priority, absolutely. So do you see what we're doing here? We're trying to make incident response more tangible. Making it super relatable makes our triage process in our head a lot easier. We can't touch a breach. So this is something that we can all relate to, hopefully. I mean, we're all humans in this room, right? So we have probably more than likely experienced some type of emergency, witnessed a car accident, heard about a car accident. Now, the person that was in this vehicle, definitely a little jacked up, right? Additional resources are more than likely necessary. In this case, this person was likely airlifted to a hospital. This is super critical. Every second counts. We need to get this person to the hospital immediately, and air rescue is probably going to be our best bet. The urgency is super high because the patient's life is 100% at stake. And they could potentially already be dead. We don't know for sure. But what about InfoSec? That's what we're all here for, right? I mean, we did just get to see some pretty cool car accident pictures and stuff, which is neat. The blood is coming, I promise. I got a lot of slides here. I don't want to waste it all at the beginning. All right. So now we're going to look at a phishing campaign. Again, the same category, 3 different scenarios. First scenario, the employee reports a suspicious email. They said, I didn't click the link or open the attachment, but this is suspicious. When I get this type of thing, I'm like, thank you. You did the right thing. You've been listening to my security awareness talks. Thanks so much. Because we don't want to feed the fish. Additional resources are likely not needed. This is probably going to be handled by a very entry-level analyst. There's still work that we want to do here, but at the same time, if something else came up, this could get set to the side. This is not a high priority. There's really no risk to business functions or data at this point. Now, scenario 2. Employer reports a suspicious email immediately after they clicked the link. Damn it. And then they entered their credentials. Super damn it. Right? No. So here, additional resources might be needed. We don't really necessarily know yet. This is clearly more critical than the previous situation because they fell for the fish. Credentials at this point are compromised. Now, without action, this could potentially get a hell of a lot worse, right? So it's a really good thing that this person did report it. Now, scenario 3, this is the oh shit. Employee reports odd email activity. And here's what they know. They checked their send inbox, and hundreds of emails have been sent on their behalf, including an attachment to their entire contact list. Oh shit. The account is compromised, right? This is high priority at this point. Additional resources are absolutely going to be needed because now there's damage. We have to stop what's happening. We have to do damage control. So this is going to be a high urgency situation. We have no idea how widespread this is at this point. So now let's compare these so that we can, again, get that more tangible aspect here. So for the high priority situations in both the car accident and the phishing campaign, we went lights and sirens. This was all hands on deck. Lights, sirens, everybody screaming, running around like crazy. Additional resources were likely needed in this situation, and it was kind of a worst case for that category. In a car accident, the worst case scenario is somebody not making it, right? We never want to hear about that, but it happens. For a phishing campaign, oh gosh, the last thing we want is our accounts to get compromised, our email accounts to be started to be used as a bot. Yeah, that's not good. Now for a medium priority, lights and sirens, we want to work this at a hurried pace, but it's not necessarily as high of a priority. Now, the big difference here with the medium priority is things can still get worse. That really sucks. Additional resources might be needed, but we'll kind of put them on the back burner. For us at Duo, personally, when we have a medium scenario, we like to spin up like a war room, a conversation place so that we can keep everybody in the loop in the event that things do hit that oh shit status. But again, they're kind of just more on standby. For low priorities, additional resources are not needed. It's very unlikely that it's going to cause further damage, and something else could take priority over this. All right, so why does this matter? Again, like I said, I'm trying to make incident response more tangible. It's very difficult, especially for a new analyst or somebody that's starting out in incident response, to always grasp the gravity and the reality of a situation that's happening because it's not something that you can actually touch. We can all relate back to emergencies and see that even though all of those were car accident situations, small tweaks increased our priority level just a little bit. Same with our phishing scenario. Blood. Not much. I said some. There is blood. Now this is a photo of an inside of an ambulance after some bad stuff happened in there. Clearly somebody lost some blood. Cannot confirm whether or not they survived. What's that? Could be. It's definitely not, I promise you. But the main thing here that I want you guys to know is that we cannot work every incident at 100 miles an hour. We risk like burnout of our employees when this happens. And the other thing that really happens here as well is that you're taking all of your focus and putting it on one thing. Therefore, what's getting missed? Who doesn't have their eyes on something else? So it's very important that we have structure and organization in our incident response process in order to avoid really big catastrophes. But wait. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Quick question, because so I did walk through this, right? Where you say that the one and two, how do you communicate that?
So our junior analysts are actually responsible for taking the information and then kind of starting to assign like that category level to it. Depending on what information is available, that's when it's passed on to our upper level analysts. Triage primarily falls on upper level analysts. The main reason for this, and also this is backwards in a lot of companies, triage is something that we want to have people who have a lot of experience dealing with events, because if you have a lot more experience and knowledge as far as like the severity and possibilities with an incident, that's going to help you to be able to assign that low, medium, and high priority, because it's not always obvious whether or not something is high, medium, or low. And if you have a junior analyst, it's more likely that they're going to focus more on the category of the incident rather than the severity, because they don't understand fully the functional or data impact. Does that answer your question?
And so I think you're thinking categorize at
Yep.
level. And you expert you can prioritize that.
Correct. Yeah. All right, so there's more. Now, this is a photo, again, of the inside of an ambulance with their what's called jump bag sitting on the cot. When the EMS workers respond to a call, regardless of what it is, that's the first thing that they grab, take out of the ambulance. Priority can change at any moment. This is the biggest thing when it comes to incident response. We have to be flexible, and we also have to be able to understand that in a moment's notice, given new data as it comes in, we can easily go from a low priority to a high priority. Triage is the initial assessment. This is what sets the pace for how we're going to continue the rest of our investigation. So it's very, very important that we understand that this stuff can change at any moment. Again, inside of an ambulance, there's some Lay's potato chips there. This was obviously after a really, really bad scenario. This ambulance is messed up. I do remember that, but I don't even really see any blood in here, so. All right, so structure and organization. We've focused primarily today on detection, reporting, and triage, but there's more steps after that. There's the analysis, containment, mitigation, and follow-up periods that still have to happen. Now, the triage part did set the pace for how we were going to attack the rest of this. Like I said, a low priority incident could get set on the back burner, worked whenever you have time. But during that analysis phase, this is when primarily the priority levels can change, because it's our first opportunity to actually see what's going on, to look at the logs, to see what's actually happening on the computer system, to see it for ourselves, rather than relying on other people or tools to tell us what's actually happening. The exact same thing can be said for EMS workers. This is the first time that they actually arrive on scene and say, oh, this is bad. Somebody might call into 911 and say, yeah, they're bleeding profusely out of their head, because, for me personally, if I see blood, I'm like, oh, it's bad, get me out of here, I don't want it. And then the EMS workers could respond very quickly and get there and realize, this is a pretty low priority. So again, it can change. We can increase or decrease our priority level at any point in time, and it primarily happens during this analysis phase. Containment and mitigation, this is extremely crucial as well, because this is when we're trying to stop the thing and then also fix it. And then follow-up. Follow-up is so important for an incident response process. This is our opportunity to debrief on the situation and what's happened and learn from it. Update our tools. Inform employees of things that are wrong. This is a learning opportunity for everybody. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So for us at Duo, the follow-up period is where we provide feedback to our analysts. It's when we're providing feedback to our employees. One thing that we are very, very good about with Duo and our CorpSec team is we're super transparent. When something happens, we want to make sure that our employees are as much in the loop as possible, so that they know what to look for in the future. We're very good about sending out communications saying, hey, this phishing email was just spotted. Here's what to do in the future. Make sure that you report it. So we're really good about making sure that we're maintaining and building our security culture, because you can't have a security company without a good security culture, right? All right, so how can we improve here? How many of you guys are manager or above level in here? All right, awesome. So you need to support your analysts. By support, I mean, yeah, provide them training, give them their resources that they need, but also this means trusting them. Trusting your analysts to make the right decision. Putting the people in the positions that have that additional level of knowledge so that they can properly assess the severity of a situation. It's very, very key. Having a strong incident response process that's well documented, easy to follow, it's organized, is also extremely important. And then making sure that you're putting more triage or more emphasis on triage, because again, that is what's setting the pace for the rest of how we respond to an incident. For our analysts in here, again, analysts, my incident responders, awesome. All right, trust your gut. What do we tell people about fishing? If it looks fishy, it probably is fishy, right? Trust your instincts. It's super, super important, especially for an analyst. Just because something has come in as a fish, they said they haven't clicked it, okay, we'll see about that. Like, we still need to do our investigation and keep going. Understand the information in front of you. Very important. Being able to take all of the data that you have and put it into that high, medium, or low category. And again, for both of these people, we need to be flexible. Incident response is a very fluid moving process. It's not necessarily linear. You can be in the analysis phase, move to containment, and then end up back in the analysis phase because you've discovered something else. And again, that high, medium, or low priority can increase or decrease at any point in time. All right, so we're getting towards the end. Key takeaways here. Triage is more than categorization, as we've seen. It is about identifying that level of severity because it's going to set the tone for the rest of the response process and how quickly and when you need to make that next move. Treat each situation as unique incidents. This will naturally come when you're not just categorizing incidents in order to move through your flow. And not every incident requires lights and sirens. All right, so that's the end. Thank you. All right, and then just want to give a really big shout out and thank you to all of the first responders here in this room, also to our police, fire,